Thomas Miller, father of the bride. I said it, clear and steady, at the reception desk. The woman skimmed the list, brows furrowed, a shake of the head. I'm sorry, sir, your name isn't here. For a moment, I thought I misheard. But the paper in her hand was spotless white, and empty of me. In this grand celebration, there wasn't a single chair for the father of the bride. I clenched the velvet box in my hand. Inside was her mother's wedding ring, the one my daughter once slipped on her tiny finger. She laughed back then, wiggling her hand, silver flashing on skin so small. I kept it 25 years, just for this day. Now it sat cold, silent, like my hand itself. Through the crystal-lit hall, I saw her, my daughter, white dress, smile on her lips, eyes sliding past me. For one heartbeat, our gaze crossed. Then she looked away, so fast, it cut my chest open. No one called my name. No one asked why I stood outside. In that crowd of laughter, I was a stranger. I set the box on a cocktail table by the door, next to a glass of champagne. A drop slid down the side, sharp as a cut. Then I turned, shoes striking the marble floor, dry, echoing, step after step. Behind me, the wedding roared on. No one noticed. The chair that would stay empty. They could erase me from the list, but they could never erase the truth. I was the one who held her hand for the very first steps of her life. And in just 2 hours, that empty chair would bring the whole wedding down. My name is Thomas Miller, 48. A life lived in concrete dust and the sound of drills. They call me the old man of the site. No fancy degree. I started at the bottom, carrying bricks, slinging mortar under the hard Texas sun. Every night, sweat and dust would crust into pale patches on my shirt. I didn't give up. Little by little, I saved. I opened a small company. There are a few jobs with my name on them now. But if you asked me what I'm proudest of, I wouldn't point to buildings or contracts. I'd say one name, my daughter. Her mother died when she was 7. I remember that night clearly. She sat on the couch, clutching a brown teddy bear, eyes wide, not blinking. She didn't cry. That kind of silence hurt more than any scream. I promised myself then I'd be both father and mother. I learned to make pancakes with clumsy hands. Pans burned black. Pancakes came out crooked. She still smiled, stuffed each one in her mouth. "You make better than the diner," she'd say. That small line became my medal. Each night I read her fairy tales on the porch of our wooden house. Some nights I was bone-tired, eyes half closed. She'd tug my sleeve. "One more page, Daddy." So I read until my voice went hoarse. When she finally slept, hair spread on the pillow, I'd sit and feel like every scar had been worth it. I could never do the things her mother did. I can't braid hair. I forget parent-teacher nights. I don't pick pretty dresses. But when she wiped out on her bike, I carried her into the ER. When she ran a fever at night, I wiped each bead of sweat away. When prom came and money was tight, I drove her to rent a dress and watched her spin in front of the mirror. My throat tightened so much I almost couldn't breathe. My truck's old, a Ford with a torn passenger seat and a scratchy radio. But it was our world. We'd drive and sing along to country songs. Sometimes she'd lean her head out the window, wind in her hair, shouting, "Dad, I want to live like this forever." In those moments, I believed, no matter what, I would be her steady place. Now that truck sits in the lot, dust on the hood, the passenger seat empty. When I drive, the radio comes on and I mumble along alone. The silence on that seat is louder than any lunch break on the site. Time kept moving. At her high school graduation, I stood under the stands. Boots still dusty. She lifted her diploma high. She found me in the crowd, smiled. Her eyes shone. For the first time in years, I cried. When she went to college, I sent money every month. When a job lost money, I sold my old tool set to make ends meet. I didn't tell her. I wanted her to think everything was fine. Her future mattered more than anything to me. Things started to shift when she brought him home. A polished kind of boy. From money. Hands that felt like gloves when we shook. She smiled more. But there was a different look in her eyes. Like she was trying to prove something. After dinner, she pulled me aside. "Dad, when we meet his family next time, please don't wear those old boots." Those boots had been with me since I started out. They weren't pretty. They were the record of every drop of sweat that built this house. Her words hit me like new concrete cracking. At the engagement party, I sat quietly, not asked for my opinion. They talked venues, dresses, guest lists, as if I didn't exist. I smiled and said I had to work. Then I went to the bathroom to hide the tears. The day she moved into her fiancé's house, she left behind a ceramic mug, a cat printed on the side. I'd bought it when she was 10. She used to drink cocoa from it, the rim nicked. I kept it. Each morning I poured coffee into it. Every sip tasted a little more bitter than the last. A quiet sign that part of our life was being left behind. The wooden house that used to be full of laughter now ticked like a clock. I'd sit on the porch, turning the velvet ring box in my hands. As if talking to my dead wife, I'd say, I did my best, but maybe she doesn't need me anymore. I don't blame her. Young people have their paths. But a father's pain isn't just that a child leaves. It's that his presence is erased from her story. The night before the wedding, I meant to give her the ring. Her mother's ring. I wanted her to wear it on her big day. She looked at me and avoided my eyes. Dad, maybe later. I don't want to make things awkward. Those words were light, but they landed like a block of concrete on my chest. I nodded and stayed silent. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room, the clock tapping, the velvet box clenched in my fist. I had a feeling something was off. I just didn't know the thing I feared would come true. People could erase my name from the guest list, but no one could erase the truth. This ring waited 25 years, and maybe it would never find a finger to stay on. That morning, I woke earlier than usual. No alarm. Eyes open while the sky was still gray. I stood at the mirror, trying to fix my tie. Hands used to hammer and wrench, clumsy at this. I twisted it over and over, still crooked. A rough laugh escaped me. Old construction man, going to a fancy party. Looks right out of place. The cat mug sat on the table. The only thing she'd left behind when she moved in with her fiancé. I poured coffee. Took a sip. The nick on the rim cut my lip just a little. Bitter spread down my throat. I closed my eyes. I saw her at 10, holding the mug too big for her hands, blowing on hot cocoa, giggling. That memory turned into a knife. I'm still here. She's not. I slid the velvet box into my inner jacket pocket. Today will be fine, I whispered. Not sure if I was talking to myself or to the wife who's gone. My old truck rolled into the valet. Among rows of gleaming Mercedes, Lexus, Porsche, it looked like an old drudge crashing a fancy dance. I chose a spot at the back and shut the engine off. Sat for a few minutes, palm on the wheel. Never felt my truck so small. Inside the lobby, expensive perfume overpowered the smell of flowers. Chandeliers hung high, pouring light onto polished marble. Staff in crisp uniforms, voices practiced. I walked through them. My hard-soled shoes tapped out a dry rhythm. I felt swallowed by the laughter and chatter. I saw my daughter from a distance. Pure white dress, hair like spun gold, a bright smile. But when her eyes skimmed me, that smile froze. She turned away, grabbed a friend's arm, pretended not to see me. My chest dropped, like a cold hand squeezing. I told myself, it's okay, she's nervous. All brides are. Deep down, I felt the warning. At the check-in desk I said, plain and loud, Thomas Miller, father of the bride. The attendant scanned the list, frowned. A firm shake of the head. I'm sorry, sir, your name isn't here. I thought I misheard. I repeated it, slower. The answer didn't change. A few guests behind me murmured, her father's not on the list? A man whispered, half mocking, maybe he doesn't meet the standard. Those small words stabbed coldly into my chest. I didn't turn. I just stood there, hand in my jacket, clutching the box until my palms sweated. In that moment, a memory crashed in. When she was 5, the kindergarten had a recital. I'd been late, stumbling into the hall. She stood on stage, searching. When she saw me, she shouted, "Daddy!" and waved. The whole room looked, but none of that mattered. Her finding me was all the courage she needed to sing the whole song. Today I'd come. But instead of shouting "Daddy," she avoided my eyes. Instead of running to me, she let them pretend I didn't exist. I stepped back a few paces and looked through the glass into the hall. Round tables dressed in white sparkled. One table had a small sign, family. Every seat filled, no place for me. I moved to the glass door, hand on the handle. I meant to open it, to walk in no matter what, to hand her the ring. But just then, she turned and beamed at her future in-laws as they entered. That smile, the one I once thought was mine, now belonged to someone else. My hand froze. I pulled back. My chest felt hollowed, drilled out. The groom's parents walked into cheers. Guests clapped. The hosts bowed. My daughter hugged them, eyes shining. Watching that, I realized the empty chair wasn't only in the hall. In her heart, my seat had been filled by another. I went to the cocktail table by the door. There was a half-drunk glass of champagne. I set the velvet box down next to it. Crystal light made it sparkle, but it felt cold. I stood a few seconds longer. No one called my name. No one asked why I stepped outside. I breathed deep, then turned and walked away. My shoes struck the marble, dry, echoing like hammer blows. I walked the long corridor, out to the lot. Behind me, music and laughter kept rolling. Inside me, only silence. I sat in my old truck and looked at the glass doors from the driver's seat. The ballroom shone and buzzed. I knew one chair would be empty all night, and that empty chair would be louder than the band. I glanced at the passenger seat, empty too, where she once sat, singing on long drives, now only dust. Two gaps, one in the hall, one in the truck, squeezing my heart from both sides. I turned the key. The engine growled. My hands on the wheel trembled. I whispered, "They can erase my name from their list, but no one can erase the truth that I taught her to take her first steps. And the gap they make will make everything fall apart. I don't know when that ring will be opened. I only know this day is not the end. It's only the beginning." I sat in the truck, engine running, but the truck didn't move. Light from the ballroom spilled across the windshield. Inside, music and laughter, a different world. Loud, polished, no room for me. I should have driven away. But my hand stayed on the wheel, white at the knuckles. If I leave now, in their eyes, I never existed. I grabbed my phone and typed fast. "Kiddo, I'm outside. I brought the ring. If you want, I'll come in and just sit." I stared at the line. My finger hovered, ready to send. Then I deleted it. To send it would be to beg. I raised her with these hands. I worked for every penny. Now ask for a seat? I shut the screen. My chest burned like I'd swallowed hot coal. I walked the corridor. In a shadowed corner, two men smoked, loud enough to hear. I hear the father isn't coming. No wonder. The groom's family said he's just a contractor, not their level. They laughed, thin and sharp, into the smoke. I froze. My heart hammered, hot. I wanted to storm out and tell them I'd built every brick in this town. I swallowed it down. I stepped back into the dark and hid the wet in my eyes. I went back to the glass doors. Inside, the ceremony had begun. My daughter, on the arm of the groom, walking the aisle. The room rose. Light struck her like a halo. My hand on the glass. Half a step and I could walk in. Memory slammed into me. Her at 5 on the kindergarten stage, searching until she saw me. She'd shouted, "Daddy!" and waved. That look gave her the courage to sing the whole song. Today she didn't look for me. She looked straight ahead and kept walking. I knew then, if I walked in now, I'd only be the shadow that ruins the picture she wants. I pulled my hand back. It shook so much sweat fell to the floor. The band started "Take Me Home, Country Roads." I went numb. That was our song, the one we sang in the old truck. Now it played at her wedding, foreign and cold. I mouthed the words, voice stuck. Lines piled on memories of long drives. But in that hall, the grand orchestra swallowed our song. I bit my lip. The taste of blood was sharp. I looked at the head table, the family table. My chair? Gone. They'd put a large floral arrangement where I might sit, covering the space, as if erasing proof I was ever there. But the more they covered it, the clearer the hole became. A busboy passed and blurted, "Is that the father's seat? Why is it empty?" A supervisor tugged him away, scowling, but his question drove like a nail into my chest. A security guard approached, polite, deferential. "Sir, this area is for guests. Please step back." His voice was civil. His eyes slipped away like I was nothing. I looked him in the eye for a long beat. He hesitated, then moved aside, waiting for me to retreat. I swallowed. I turned slowly. No argument, no fight. But inside, a fire flared. Back in the truck, I sat still. I saw invoices, contracts I'd signed, dresses, music, flowers, cake, all paid by me. I opened the glove box, pulled out the file. Proof. Paper after paper. Numbers punched my eyes like slaps. I laughed, a rough, bitter sound in the cab. Proud too. If I'd put this wedding together, I could call the shots. I opened my phone and dialed the bank. My finger landed on call. The line rang. An agent said, "Hello, this is..." I slammed the phone down. My heart raced, palm sweating. I asked myself, do I really want to do this? It's her wedding day. I bowed my head to the wheel. Tears soaked my tie. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Then I lifted my head. In the rear view, my eyes were burning red. No more trembling, only resolve. I called again. This time, I didn't hang up. When the agent answered, my voice was low, hoarse, but steady. I want to stop all payments related to the Grand Hall wedding contract. Effective immediately. In that second, the world around me felt terrifyingly still. Inside me, a rope snapped. I knew then things could never go back. I leaned back and breathed hard. Through the glass, the ballroom still shone, as if nothing had happened. But I knew in a few minutes that light would start to flicker. I whispered, as if to myself. This isn't revenge, it's survival. If I let them erase my name, my daughter will grow up thinking I was never there. I'd rather burn it all down than disappear. I sat in the truck. Engine alive, truck still. Ballroom light shimmered across the windshield. Inside, music, laughter, another world, loud, polished. No place for me. The bank's voice still rung in my head. All payments have been stopped, effective immediately. From that second, I knew the wedding would start to crack. I didn't imagine it. I just sat and listened. My heartbeat matched the engine's low growl, like the sound before a storm. The music in the hall stalled. I looked up. Through the glass, I saw the band put down instruments. Faces tightened. Violins went silent. A heavy pause filled the air. Guests murmured. What happened to the music? Did something go wrong? The wedding manager rushed out, phone to his ear. His face drained. He hurried back inside, whispering to the MC. I didn't hear the words, but I understood. Minutes later, a flower truck pulled up. Workers began stripping the arrangements, bundling white hydrangeas back onto the truck. The snap of ropes was sharp. A woman gasped. What the hell? They're taking the flowers before the ceremony's over? Whispers spread like tinder. I watched surprised faces, a few scowls. The perfect picture began to show cracks. Then the bakery van stopped at the gate. 2 staff carried the 5-tier cake in. They spoke for a moment with the organizers, then wheeled the cake back out again. The room burst into questions. Not paid? What kind of wedding is this? I leaned my head back and closed my eyes. Each comment cut like a blade. But it was the truth laid bare. I saw my daughter in the crowd. She stood pale. The bouquet trembled in her hands. Petals fell. Guests started whispering and pointing. Where's the father? He's not here? Rumor is they didn't invite him. That's awful. Each word landed, and I watched her shoulders shrink. She looked at the family table. The big floral arrangement hid my chair. But that cover had become an arrow pointing at her. My hand found the truck door handle. My heart raced. Half of me wanted to run in, to take her in my arms, to shout, I'm here. I cracked the door and put a foot down. Then she looked, and our eyes met through the glass. I took 1 step. She shook her head, barely. Not for the guests. I understood. She was begging me not to turn this into a storm. I froze. My grip on the handle went white with veins. The MC scrambled for the mic, trying to steady the room. Ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to the screen for a childhood montage of the bride. The big screen lit up. Photos rolled. I went numb. Not glossy studio shots. Our photos. Me carrying her on my shoulder at the dusty site. Me tying her shoe in the schoolyard. Me reading on the porch while she slept on my shoulder. The hall went silent. No more whispering. Faces glued to the screen. Then all eyes shifted to my daughter. She raised a hand to her mouth. Tears blurred her makeup. The groom leaned in, said something. She didn't answer. Her bouquet slipped. It hit the floor. She ran off the stage. Heels slammed on marble. A harsh, loud sound in the hush. I sat in the truck and my chest ached. I didn't get out. I didn't run to her. I let her see me there, like that empty chair, silent, undeniable. I whispered, voice shaking but sure. They can erase my name from their list. They can cover the empty chair with flowers. But when those photos appear, everyone sees. That space has always been mine, and no one can replace it. My daughter ran out of the ballroom. Her white dress fanned the steps, a long tear down the train. She stopped, collapsed, hands over her face, sobs ripping the hot Texas night. Inside, guests buzzed, a tide of talk. Out here, it was just the 2 of us. A forgotten father, a bride breaking apart. I walked slowly. My shoes tapped the stone. She looked up when she heard me. Mascara streaked down red eyes. "Dad," she whispered, thin as a breeze. I stopped a few paces away. If I stepped forward, I knew I'd scoop her up, forgive everything, and the wound would be buried, never healed. I breathed, tried to keep my voice steady. "I've always been here. You just chose not to see." She sobbed into her hands. My chest tightened. To me, she was still that little girl curled on the couch with a teddy after her mother died. Between sobs, she managed, I didn't mean to erase you from the wedding. I was scared they'd laugh. They said you weren't their kind. I was weak. I stayed quiet." My hands clenched. Each word felt like a stone dropping into my heart. Not because she confessed, but because shame had beaten our love. I gave a small, bitter smile. Not mocking, just pain. Not their kind. Who paid for your tuition? Who carried you into the ER at night? Who sang in that old truck your whole childhood? If that's shame, then I have nothing left to say. She lunged forward, crying. I held up a hand. I didn't shout. I didn't leave. But I knew. If I hugged her now, the crack would be hidden, never fixed. Silence hung heavy. Night wind lifted her train, dust bright against the white. The image stabbed my chest. A bride, meant to shine, sitting on the stone steps like a child left behind. "Dad, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have let them erase you. I know you're the one who built everything." Tears rose in my eyes, but I kept them in, my voice low and rough. "Don't apologize for me. Ask yourself, how will you live if you bury your own blood? I don't need an invitation. I need to be acknowledged, that I was in your life." She crumpled, sobbing, clutching the ruined bouquet. The ballroom noise leaked through, music half finished. I turned and walked away, each step heavy as the life behind me. She called after me, voice hoarse. "Dad, don't go!" I stopped, but didn't turn. I said slow, clear, "Tomorrow, when the lights go out, you'll see. That empty chair weighs more than 1,000 words from me." I kept walking. My shadow stretched under the hallway lights, patching the cold tiles. Outside in the lot, I stopped and leaned against the door. I didn't start the engine yet. I wanted this moment to stay. Painful, but true. In the glass, I could still see her, kneeling on the step, dress dust-streaked, shoulders trembling. My hand clenched the handle until my vision blurred. They can erase my name from the list. They can hide the empty chair with flowers. But they can't erase the fact. For 25 years, I was there for every step of her life. And perhaps the worst pain isn't being pushed out. It's when she realizes it too late. I opened the door, slid into the driver's seat. The engine started. The passenger seat, where she once sang beside me, was empty. I laid my hands on the wheel, closed my eyes. This time, I drove away. That night, the road home felt longer than ever. Streetlights spilled broken gold across the asphalt. The wind carried the smell of weeds through the cab. The engine of the truck hummed steady, like the old breath of a worn-out friend. But inside me, only a cold, hollow space. I drove, but my mind drifted back. The wedding replayed itself. My daughter avoiding my eyes. The chair covered with flowers. The country song out of place. The cake wheeled away in whispers. And at the end, her on the steps, dress in the dust, tears smearing her face. Each scene cut deep, carving scars in memory. In my head, that empty chair was clearer than anything else. They could cover it with flowers, pretend it was never there. But emptiness can't be erased. It sits heavier than all the talk in the room. And then it hit me. All my life, I'd left empty chairs too. The night her mother died, I buried myself in work, left her alone at the table. The night of her school play, I came late. The seat where I should have been, empty. Maybe tonight, I was tasting the same feeling she once had. A bitter truth. An empty chair, whether by accident or by choice, leaves scars that never fade. I don't know what she'll remember from this wedding. Maybe the shame before the guests. Maybe the stares. But I know she won't forget those childhood photos on the screen. No one can erase that. Not her in-laws. Not a guest list. Not a bouquet hiding a seat. I was there, every year of her life. And those pictures will stand as witness. When the truck turned down the country road, I lowered the window. The night wind rushed in, with earth, with damp, with memory. I glanced at the passenger seat. Once, she sat there singing Country Roads, feet kicking with the beat. Now, empty, I understood. Some empty chairs aren't meant to be filled. They exist to remind us that love has to be honored while it's still here. That when you turn away, the chair becomes a scar. I don't know if one day she'll knock on my wooden door again, sit at the table across from me, call me Dad. I don't need a perfect apology. I don't need a late embrace. I only hope one day she has the courage to face that empty chair and fill it with truth. The truck rolled into the yard. I shut the engine off, sat still in the dark. Above, the stars flickered. The anger was gone. Only calm remained, like a lake after the storm. I told myself, today I lost my place at a wedding, but I know inside her heart, there's still a chair. And I'll wait until she's ready to sit beside me. If you still have a father, don't wait until the chair next to you is empty to realize he's been there all along.